Hello, we're back in Starcraft 2 here. Today, I thought we'd do something different actually. Instead of playing a game, we're gonna look at the tech for each of the races. We're not gonna go too in depth and go through the units, but at least have an idea of what buildings come in which order when you're starting the game. Because you can't just build air units right away, that'd be ridiculous. There's a certain pathway for each race that you have to take to get to the units that you want. And that's what we call teching up, just getting higher technologies as the game progresses. So you can actually find that in game. We're going to, I believe it's help. And yep, here we just see all the tech trees. And we can find all the units too. Now I think it's really cool that each of the races have their own archetype, and then they really play towards their archetype too. So Zerg, if you look at it, they can build multiple units at the same time, so they can build armies really fast, restock armies really fast, and they like to play around the map, so they like to spread. They're really territorial. And it's all about being a big massive group of aliens that just run you down. Protoss on the other hand, it's more of a slower race. They're like strong, clunky, big units that cost more, but they're inherently just like strong as one unit. And you can see, we'll go through this later, but the way like they produce units is just different than like other races. Well, you'd say Protoss and Terran are more similar, and Zerg is just unique, but we'll see. And then the Terrans are more middle groundish. I don't know if I would say that, but they have stronger units than the Zerg, like individually, but I wouldn't say they're as strong as the Protoss. The Protoss have shields, but they're versatile, and we're able to heal units unlike other guys. Well, the Zerg can heal units too, but it's a bit different. We'll go over it. Because Terrans can heal their bow units and they can repair their mech units, and almost all of them fall into one of the two categories. So we're gonna start with Terran because that's what we're playing, and once we understand this more, I think it'll be more fun watching each of the games. Because I'm assuming that you're just watching the games and we're just fighting, but you don't really understand what's going on. Why we're doing, not why we're doing, but the order in which the buildings are placed, and then the timing of your buildings is important. So, you start up at the top here. Once you start the game, these are first three buildings you can build. You start with one command center. You can see that we always build a supply depot first, because in order to get everything else, we need to build a supply depot. So once the supply depot goes down, usually the barracks go down right after that. And barracks allow you to build your infantry units. So we got the Marine, Marauder, Reaper, Ghost. But you see the Ghost actually requires other items, other buildings too. So these guys go down. Reaper and Marine go down right away. Marauder requires that tech lab. So each of the Terran production, army production facilities, you can attach an add-on to them, which is either the tech lab or the reactor. Now the tech lab allows you to build extra stuff. So for barracks here, we got the Marauder. The Ghost also requires a tech lab, but the Ghost, in addition to the tech lab, requires this Ghost Academy that lets you shoot nukes. You don't see it too often, but it is a thing. Or the reactor, and the reactor doesn't allow you to build these extra units, but allows you to build two of the basic units at the same time. So then we can start pumping out 2 Marines at once, 2 Hellions at once, 2 Widow Mines at once, but not 2 Siege Tanks at once, because the Siege Tank requires the tech lab. So in order to get to this factory here, we need the barracks. So we get barracks, factory. And this barracks also gives you the ghost academy and the bunker. The bunker we see sometimes. You can either build it as like a defensive bunker near your base. It protects your units. You can put your infantry into the bunker so they're in a house and they can continue to shoot people from the house, and you can see they get 1 bonus range. So you can build this at home, or sometimes it's very cheesy strats. You rush the other guy and you bring a SCV with you and you build a bunker in front of their base and you're just camping them. It's good to note that the SCV comes out of the command center. That's your little drone basic worker unit. So these are in every race. You see that they have the probe and the drones here, and these guys build your buildings and mine minerals for you. So after this factory, we get starport. So factory is mech units, starport is air units, all things air. Given the armory here, it gives us the chance to make doors, which is like the biggest ground unit for Terran. And given the fusion core after the starport, we get the biggest air unit for Terran, which is battlecruiser. Now mostly in Terran fights we'll see marine. Marine is very, you see general purpose. Like general purpose is, it's true, it might be an understatement, it's like super, like all around pretty good. You'll see them in almost every army. It turns like bread and butter pretty much. We won't go over all the units, but these you'll see a lot, and siege tanks you'll see a lot. So they can swap modes between just being a tank running around and shooting stuff, or they can siege up, which makes them immobile, but they have longer range. They hit harder, but I think they shoot slower too. So it does what it does. It's sieges. You drop it in one place, and then it makes it hard for enemies to approach you, or you're using that long range to invade someone's base. We'll go over the other tech trees, but not in much detail, but I'll show you the differences. So Zerg is special in that everything comes from their hatchery. Like all the units they build come from the hatchery, because the hatchery has larvae, produces larvae, and the larvae you can morph to any unit. So you can build, like, off of one hatchery you can build 3 drones at the same time. You know, when we have our command center, we're pumping out SCVs 1 at a time. These guys can do 3 at a time, so they're fast paced in that sense. The queen. So another thing about Zerg is they have creep, right, which is the purple shit on the floor, and all their units move faster on it, and they also regen on it. So queens allow you to drop these little tumors, creep tumors, that spawn creep on the floor, so you can spread that around, and those things multiply, so they spread, and then at a certain point you can, each one lets you place another one, and the previous one stays, but it doesn't let you produce anymore. So once you produce the extra one, the other one like stagnates. So it's just like leapfrog. It's just one after another, after another, after another, infinitely. So because larvae produce all units, it's not like we can build the really big units right away. So by having buildings, it enables the larvae to morph into different units. So unlike Terran we have the factory, and then we want the armory so the factory can make stuff. Here we have the hatchery that makes everything, and then we get our roachworn, baneling nest stuff to make the larvae into different units. And these buildings, it's not like you can build all the buildings right away. What enables you is the upgrade of the hatchery. So you start with the hatchery, you build spawning pools, and spawning pools give you your really basic Zergling, your melee ground unit. It's like the marine of the Zerg, except it's melee. And then that gives you also these guys here. the spawning pool gives you all of this. But then after this, we have to upgrade our hatchery to give us the layer, and the layer unlocks more units for your larva. And proceedingly, the hive gives you these two buildings, which give you the biggest ground unit and air unit of the Zerg. Ultralisk, and where is the brood? Oh, actually, you see, notice how the brood lord is not here because they're morphed units. So Zerg actually has to convert some of their units into more units instead of just building them right off the bat. So you see, once we have our spire here, this is the air units for Zerg. You can make corruptors, and corruptors, they can only attack air, but once you unlock this greater spire from your upgraded hive, you can turn your corruptors into brood lords. So it's different. You can tell it's kind of funny. Like, it's not like I turn a banshee into battle cruiser. There's no evolution here, but there is evolution in Zerg. So it plays into that, like, I'm an alien biological thing really well. And finally, so notice how I said air unit. Like, I know this, but I don't play Zerg because when you're playing against people, you need to know what buildings they're placing down so you can, like, defend against it or counter it in a sense, right? So when you're scouting and you see this spire, you're like, oh shit, they're building air. I need to do something that fights air, because not all your units can hit air. And if you don't have units that hit air, they can hit you and you can't hit them and you're kind of fucked. And finally, we have this Protoss here. Protoss, they're not as special as Zerg. Okay, they have these facilities, production facilities, and they pump out 1 unit at a time. Their Nexus pumps out 1 probe at a time. But something that you could say is when they start pumping out multiple units at a time is when you unlock this warp gate technology at Cybernetics core. So once you build a gateway, so this is like your barracks, so ground units for Protoss. These guys can morph into these warp gates once you research this technology, and that lets you just drop units anywhere that there's a pylon or a power supply. One thing to know. See, I just take it for granted, but the pylon, it powers their buildings, not their units, their buildings. So your buildings don't work unless they're beside a pylon, and the pylon has like this certain radius. So if you drop the pylon and the gateway is only powered by that one pylon, you drop the pylon, the gateway stops working. But this energy field, you call it, the warp gate allows you to create one gateway will give you 1 unit. You can summon 1 unit in the energy field. So I have 5 gateways. I can do 5 units at once in the energy field, and they warp in much faster. Even though I think the cooldowns, there's still cooldown on it too, so you can't just keep warping them. But if you want to summon units like right there, right away, that's how you do it. You'll see that a lot. The Stargate is their air units for Protoss, and you can say there's this auxiliary thing, the robotics facility. It makes air and ground units, but these are like higher tier units for both air and ground. That's not to say that these guys don't produce really high tier units either. You see the fleet beacon enables carriers, which is like the biggest Protoss air unit, but these are more like unique units, you know. Yeah, and these all just enable like more units to be built out of these production facilities. That's pretty much it. If you want to start talking about the units, like I say these are the biggest units, but that doesn't mean they're the best. Like if I build just these units, that doesn't mean I'm gonna win, because you always build some unit that's better against this unit. It's like rock paper scissors, and you're always trying to out tech the other guy's army and build what's good against his. That's pretty much it. We'll be back with some more games. I've been practicing. a little bit. Still not the best, but I'm pretty sure if the next video is not a player-based game, the video after will be. Alright, I'll see you then.